On lap 6 of the Brazilian Grand Prix, 3 cars met in one corner and only 2 came out. Oscar Piastri went for a move on Kimi Antonelli, Antonelli defended, and Charles Leclerc became the collateral damage. The contact ended Ferrari's strongest weekend in weeks and triggered another row over how Formula One judges blame. The FIA called it entirely Piastri's fault. A 10-second penalty, 2 licence points, case closed. But not everyone agreed. Leclerc said, "For me, it's 50-50. Oscar was optimistic, but Kimi knew he was there and still did the corner like he wasn't. McLaren boss Andrea Stella added, "Oscar had a small lock-up but kept control. Kimi knew he was on the inside. The collision could have been avoided. So, who was really at fault? Was Piastri too aggressive for a gap that didn't exist? Did Antonelli close too late? Or was the FIA too rigid in applying the overlap rule again, ignoring context? It's another moment that exposes how little margin modern F1 leaves for instinct or judgment. Before we get into how it happened, the data, the replays, and what it means for all 3 teams, make sure you're subscribed. The clash happened moments after the safety car restart following Gabriel Bortoletto's early crash. Piastri caught Antonelli's slipstream up the main straight and pulled out to attack into turn 1. The Mercedes shifted left to defend, Leclerc stayed committed on the outside, and the 3 lines converged. Contact was immediate. Antonelli's right rear clipped Piastri's front wing, and the rebound sent the Mercedes outward into Leclerc. Within seconds, the Ferrari's front left suspension folded, and his tyre rolled off the rim. Leclerc's race was over before the first pit stop had even begun. From the broadcast angle, it looked like an inevitable Interlagos chain reaction. Tight corner, cold tyres, 3 cars on one line. But racing incidents rarely come down to luck. They come down to margins and awareness. Piastri had the grip and momentum, Antonelli had track position, and Leclerc was trusting both to leave room. Only one of those assumptions was wrong. Ferrari's frustration was immediate. Leclerc's radio summed it up in 2 words: "I'm out." The team's engineers were silent. Their best qualifying result in weeks, 3rd place behind Norris and Antonelli, had just disintegrated. After the steward's decision, Ferrari's response was measured but firm. Another race undone by someone else's mistake. McLaren, meanwhile, had little time to argue. The team served Piastri's penalty at the stop and the Australian recovered to 5th. Norris led from pole, controlled the race and took his 2nd consecutive win, extending his championship lead to 24 points. Piastri's pace in clean air was strong, but the damage to his weekend and his reputation was already done. Andrea Stella defended him immediately after the race. Oscar did what any driver would do with that run. He committed. There was space. There was no intention to cause contact. His tone was calm but pointed, aimed as much at the stewards as at public perception. McLaren knew that even if the penalty stood, the bigger battle was narrative. Antonelli stayed quiet. He didn't need to speak. The results spoke for him. Despite floor damage, he finished 2nd, his best result in Formula One so far. For Mercedes, that podium meant more than just points. It validated the decision to promote him, proving that even amid chaos, the rookie could hold his ground. Yet the irony was obvious. The driver who played a part in ending Ferrari's race stood on the podium above them. For Ferrari, it was the continuation of a pattern. Leclerc's retirement, combined with Hamilton's DNF from floor damage, turned a potential double podium into 0 points. "Very frustrating," Leclerc said. "We reacted well from Friday, we had the pace, but this kills the momentum." That line captured Ferrari's season in one sentence: potential, undone by circumstance. The steward's logic was consistent with precedent. The overlap rule has existed for years. If the attacking car's front axle doesn't reach the defending car's mirror before the apex, the attacker bears full responsibility. It's designed to create consistency, but it often removes nuance. At Interlagos, it punished initiative and rewarded caution. That's where the debate begins. Should Piastri have backed out? Maybe. But then, what's left of racing if every move must fit a regulation diagram? Was Antonelli entitled to close the door? Yes, but entitlement isn't the same as good judgment. And was the FIA wrong to enforce its own guideline? Not technically, but rules written for clarity don't always deliver fairness. Stay with us, because if you appreciate analysis that looks beyond the obvious, make sure you're subscribed. We're not just talking about a crash, we're talking about what modern Formula One has become. The real issue here isn't blame. It's how the sport now defines responsibility. For years, the FIA has refined its framework for wheel-to-wheel racing. Every clause, every guideline is meant to reduce ambiguity. But racing isn't mathematics. It's about instinct and interpretation, and those can't always coexist with zero-tolerance rules. Leclerc's view, calling it 50-50, was telling. He wasn't accusing, he was acknowledging that accidents happen when rules meet reality. Antonelli's defence was legal but unnecessary. Piastri's move was ambitious but measured. All three acted within the limits of modern F1, and that's exactly why it ended in collision. The regulations reward compliance, not adaptability. From the steward's room, the data made it look simple, but data doesn't show trust. The silent expectation that another driver will act with the same awareness. That's the foundation of every overtake. When it breaks down even slightly, the result looks like lap 6 at Interlagos. The incident also reshaped the constructors' standings. Mercedes jumped ahead of Ferrari. McLaren extended its cushion. Red Bull, with Verstappen recovering from a pit lane start, closed the gap marginally. Ferrari dropped to 4th, again the team that had pace but no points to show for it. Inside Maranello, the analysis was forensic. The team reviewed onboards, telemetry and GPS overlays. They knew Leclerc had left enough space, had positioned the car exactly where the simulator data suggested. They knew the risk wasn't his. But in racing, correctness doesn't always protect you. For McLaren, the tone was pragmatic. Piastri's penalty didn't change their weekend outcome, but it did spark a question about consistency. "We just want to see the same logic applied to everyone," Stella said. "If that's the rule, then fine. But it must be the same rule for every car every time." Mercedes predictably avoided comment. Antonelli's podium spoke louder than any quote. But internally, the team knew how fine the line had been. His race could easily have ended at turn 1 too. That's the nature of modern F1. Precision rewarded, hesitation punished. As the checkered flag fell, the fallout spread beyond the points table. Fans, pundits and former drivers all asked the same question. Has Formula One gone too far in regulating what used to be instinct? The data-driven enforcement of blame may make stewarding consistent, but it also makes racing sterile. When every move carries a post-race verdict, spontaneity dies by 1,000 slow-motion replays. And that's why the Interlagos crash matters more than the positions it changed. It wasn't about Piastri or Leclerc or Antonelli alone. It was about the intersection of three drivers acting rationally inside a system that no longer forgives imperfection. Formula One has always been about judgment, the ability to decide in real time what risk is worth taking. The irony is that the rulebook designed to clarify that judgment now restricts it. Every overtake is an algorithm waiting to be evaluated, every penalty a reminder that human instinct has become secondary to regulation. So as the sport heads into its final races, Las Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, the standings will shift, teams will recover and the incident will fade. But the question it raised won't. Because at 280 kilometers per hour, when instinct collides with regulation, how can Formula One still claim to understand what real racing is?